about working with Rian?
He's an asshole.
So, this is the video, part 2, chapter 3, where we talk about Leia. And this is where I want to take back ownership of the character, only because what Rian Johnson and, to a lesser extent, J.J. Abrams opened her up to is absolutely evil. When you get to The Force Awakens, you have no idea what's going on. It's confusing, and you realize you're just watching a woke reboot of A New Hope, right? It's so unimaginative, and Leia goes from a princess, she gets demoted to a general. Okay, that's not how it goes, but okay. And the thing that's interesting to me is that this is where her character starts to get undermined and deconstructed. And there's a purpose behind this. Well, when we get to the Rian Johnson issue, we will talk about that. And the fact that many of a very small community have decided to squat on her character as if they've owned this character forever. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. And I actually do really mean that. I mean, I really, really mean that. The reason why I'm talking about this stuff is that culture is so important. These are our stories. And if they can take our stories away from us, they can change our culture, which is what they want to do. That's exactly what the cultural Marxists had gone out to try to do. And they've been successful to an extent. Now, granted, corporations around the country are now not funding pride events. There's no more real interest in it. And it seems like that community is sort of getting quiet again, I guess, or realizing that people are really kind of sick of their bullshit, I guess. It's very interesting to me seeing woke white Karens crying about the lack of pride merch at Target. I've got a video of one. She's hilarious. And I'm really glad I'm not related to her. Anyway, so what I discovered in going through all this is we get to TFA, we see something happen between Han and Leia. Han goes off and doesn't come back. And this is never really explained in the stories at all. And it's one of those things where you're like, why did this happen? And it wouldn't be a difficult thing to explain it. But J.J. Abrams and his magic hidden boxes isn't capable of coming close to being able to do something like that. So they left the character open to be squatted on by a bunch of parasitical lesbians, right? Because Leia's not in a dress. She's not all beautiful and shit. She's in a uniform, which is, again, like I said, as a princess, she got demoted. She was the one that bossed everybody around. All right, I hate to tell you that. She is. So, people are wondering what's going on. And of course, the woke white Karens, be they straight or dykes, instantly jumped on the dyke bandwagon. Then, because Rian Johnson has no creativity, goes online and lets them write the story. And instead of actually explaining things that happened in the past, he pulls out Vice Admiral Gender Studies. Now, what's the thing about the color of hair that this character has? It's a signal that she is toxic. And this is where the lesbians jump in. It's like, no, this character's never been that way. Get your fucking hands off of her, okay? It's not yours. It still, in my opinion, belongs to George Lucas. That's just my opinion. And I'm planting my flag here. it's you could see what was going to happen to Han and Luke from 1,000 yards away. But what they did to Leia, they couldn't leave her alone. And especially Rian Johnson. And as Carrie said, he's an asshole. Well, he is a fucking asshole, right? George wrote not just a classic heroine, but a uniquely classic heroine. Not only is she a princess that needs to be rescued, she can help in her own rescue. She is a leader, and she doesn't act like a bitchy girl boss. She's just Leia. That's who she is. She was raised to be that way. And it's one of those things where I'm watching this. When you watch the movies, you see her journey is so different from the boys. She doesn't have to discover her heroism. She already is. Because she's the one that got the Death Star plans and tried to get them to Kenobi before she got captured. All right? So she's already there. She's already in the spotlight. And the princess is somebody that has a journey that goes from being self-protective to being open to a relationship. And not the kind of relationship that the maggoty, blue-haired land whales think she should have, but a relationship, Han Solo. He's the last man on the planet, in the galaxy you would ever think a girl like that would go after, but here we are, and there she is, right? And what I think is so interesting is that Rian Johnson did everything he fucking could do to erase any sort of moment of that. And it's like, look, dude, you know, we get it. You're a woke asshole, and you probably suck Kathleen Kennedy's toes, but stop doing that, okay? You know, stop messing with something that doesn't belong to you. Because it doesn't. He was hired, signed a contract to do a job, and he did a really shitty job. And everybody knows it. And to me, it's just another function of cultural Marxism and critical theory, where you have what they call intersexual feminism crossing with the LGBTQ community, and now you have a problem because these people are in the culture and they're forcing shit down our throats we don't want. Right? They're taking ownership of something that A, they didn't create, and B, that meant something remarkable in a singular moment in an industry and in the pop culture of the United States, and taking it away from 90% of us, right? There's something missing in the sequel trilogy, and it's called Romance and Beauty. And I'm going to call out Reylo too. Reylo is not a romance. It's abuse. That is abuse right there. What happened, what they did to Leia was, to me, Rian Johnson should be put in prison for it. I mean, he really should be. The fact that Carrie Fisher had to do this, that she wasn't in shape to say, hey, why are we doing this to this character? You know, why is this even a thing? And she had no idea that there are going to be writers like Claudia Gray with her filthy fucking sex-depraved fat hands in the middle of this, and psychopaths from all over the internet getting their noses into this and coming up with their own headcanon. Nor was she aware that Rian fucking Johnson would be paying attention to them. I'm pretty sure George Lucas would just write the story he wanted to write and put the story up there he thought was the right one. And there you go. You have George's vision. Leia is basically in the middle of what she thinks is a love triangle. And it really isn't. I mean, I don't really see it, Luke Skywalker, as being anything more than a crash helmet, if you know what I mean. And the reason why I say crash helmet is because there's no, there's, I mean, the chemistry between her and Harrison Ford is real because it was real. That really did happen. And it was just natural. And besides, it fits the story. Star Wars is part fairy tale, part Western, part wholly American storytelling. And when you have people at war, you get people who'd never meet to come across each other, and things do happen. And this is what happened. We know that Han goes to rescue her from getting caught by the Imperials or crushed under the ice on Hoth, and gets her to the Falcon. The Falcon doesn't want to work, and it leads to, finally, their romance becoming reality. The thing about it is, I think that people don't understand is that Leia is a war leader by necessity, not because she may want to be. Remember, she said Alderaan is a peaceful planet. We have no weapons. Now, that was culturally probably true, but Bail does leave Yavin saying, "I'm going back to tell my people to prepare for war." Okay, so, but still, that's what she said. Okay, so she's a war leader by necessity. Most women don't want to be in that position. I mean, and if you look at all through the years from the Viking shield maidens, and they were real, they were definitely real people, to Boudica and others across, the pantheon of human existence, there are women that went out and fought beside their men. We have it in American Revolutionary War history, Molly Pitcher, right? But this isn't about her being a war leader. But again, J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, more likely, concentrate on the things that aren't important. Yes, it's important that Leia's a war leader, that she's a diplomat, that she does this, that she's, the last surviving member of the House of Organa, right? But she is a woman, and she's a young woman, and that part of her we get to see, right? That's the most important part of any woman, right? Because we're the ones that nurture, we're the ones that take care, we're the ones that have to do the things like raising the kids and stuff. And, we're the ones that at times really get smacked around when bad stuff goes down, which is what happened in The Empire Strikes Back. She goes out to try to save Han, and they didn't get there in time to stop Boba Fett. The I love you, I know thing, that is classic. That is one of the most classic things ever, and it was ad-libbed. And apparently George hated it, but everybody else was like, this is so great. The thing about it with this is that she's all these things. And these ugly, ugly women squatting on her character now, and they don't really understand it and are trying to erase that part of her. And that's what really pisses me off. But let's talk more.
But she's fighting.
For 10 long weeks, the Star Wars company labored on the suburban London sound stages, bringing to life a film that had begun as an idea with George Lucas 3 years before.
So, getting into the mythology a little bit that has been erased through the sequel trilogy. Egyptian mythology, the goddess Isis goes to pick up the pieces of her husband's body, the god Osiris, and she has him stitched back together again, and he becomes the god of the dead. Now, Han and Leia are not like that. Leia goes to Jabba's palace disguised as a bounty hunter. She brings Chewbacca with her as a trophy, and she's there to get Han out. Now, it's to me when I think about this, it's these guys. It's like you guys really didn't think about this, did you? But she fails. Jabba, I don't know how he figured it out, but he figured it out. He has Han thrown into the same prison cell with Chewbacca, which is probably, when you think about it, not a good idea to have them together. And he takes Leia prisoner. Leia ends up freeing herself by choking Jabba with her own slave chains. A really big moment. And when they get back to the rebellion, Han embraces the rebellion when he never really cared before. And he ends up being the general in charge of the team that goes to take out the shield generator. She goes with him. She's not supposed to, but she goes with him. She basically says, I'm not letting you out of my sight. And during the adventure, they get separated. She runs into Wicket the Ewok, and he brings her back to his village. Han and Luke and Chewbacca and the droids get captured. And their capture by the Ewoks wasn't as diplomatic as we should say. And Leia comes out trying to get the Ewoks to let them go, and then Luke uses the Force, and they get out. And C-3PO tells the story of how they got there and what's really going on and who they are. And it's a really poignant scene because, first off, where'd the brown dress come from? There's never been a satisfying story about how that happened. But while they're listening, Luke gets up and leaves. Now, this is the big things in Leia's formation, her relationship with Han, and who she is in reality. Luke asks her, did you remember your mother? And she said, not just feelings. She was very beautiful, just feelings. I'm paraphrasing. Luke basically breaks down and says, my father's Darth Vader, and you're my twin sister. Okay. So Leia's got this on her shoulders as the Battle of Endor starts. At the end of it, she and Han have a conversation, and he's like, well, if you want to, I'm paraphrasing, if you want to be with Luke, that's fine, I won't stand in your way. And she said, it's not like that. And he's like, what? And she goes, he's my brother. And there's so much going on here that is, it just, from the standpoint of Joseph Campbell, it makes sense. From the standpoint of storytelling, it makes sense. And the thing about it that absolutely drives me crazy is that everything about her is the great role model for girls. And yet, Rian Johnson made sure that he could fuck her over big time. And fuck George over too. In fact, every time I think about The Last Jedi, I look at it and think, this is the most mean-spirited, nasty piece of work I've ever seen in my life. No intention to be honorable towards Carrie Fisher at all, and definitely none towards Mark Hamill because he's the white guy. And I have a lot to say about Mark's attitude now. But the fact that these intersectional feminists are taking ownership of a character they did not create, that has always been a normal person, is the height of cultural Marxism in a way that can't even really be quantified, right? We've got lesbians squatting on a character they don't own, that they don't have any right to, because no one's ever told them they could make their own space opera. Nobody's going to see it, but they could value. My thing is this: what they're doing, because they've been told they're allowed to, is validating themselves with something they don't own, and with a movie character. You know, when you have somebody saying, well, they need to be seen. What the hell is that kind of narcissistic shit? But that is the cultural Marxist left. They want power. They want to shove their bigotry and evil into every facet of life. And they've been bred to be narcissists. Okay, that's the height of critical theory right there, and narcissism. Okay, and these lesbians squat on characters that were normal people for 50 years. And they've been allowed to do that. And I think that perhaps one of the reasons why The Last Jedi failed so badly, I'm going to offer this, is because exactly that. Is because anybody with the brain who spent time in college in the early 90s could see this coming from 1,000 yards away. Right? Men can't be friends, there has to be a sexual relationship. Women can't be friends, there has to be a sexual relationship. That's how these fucking bitches think. Right? That's all they know. Okay? And they think they own something they've never had a right to. That's cultural Marxism. And to me, it is time for Disney to shut that shit down. Right? I mean, because look, the sequel trilogy failed. It failed because of Rian Johnson and the other idiots and their need to destroy what George made. Tomorrow I'm going to do part 3, the video about George and the destruction of his legacy. This is Steph signing out. See you around the galaxy.